a common enemy. So Yunho decided to team up with Kim Suk-hoon for revenge. To find evidence, Yunho decided to continue using Lee Woo-jin's identity to stay close to Cheon Tae-hwa. Yunho knew Cheon Tae-hwa had been having him followed, so he deliberately returned to the nursing home. Sure enough, the men in black seized the opportunity to tackle Yunho to the ground. When Yunho's head hit the ground, by chance it caused him to recover his memory. The scenes of him and Hyunsoo falling in love appeared before his eyes again. Meanwhile, the chairman agreed to Dojin and Hyunsoo's marriage. Soon both families arranged to meet. After learning about this, Sayla stayed in bed crying for a month. She even called Hyunsoo over, demanding she cancel the wedding. Otherwise, she would jump from the building. She climbed to the rooftop trying to threaten Hyunsoo into letting go. Awkwardly, Hyunsoo wasn't buying it at all. She walked away without looking back. Sayla instantly became a joke. When Cheon Tae-hwa learned the chairman had agreed to his son's marriage, she went to her ex-husband's house again to cause a scene. But the chairman directly called the police and had her dragged out. Soon it was the day of Hyunsoo and Dojin's wedding. To stop his wife from marrying someone else, Yunho, with his memory restored, ran frantically to the wedding venue. But Kim Suk-hoon stopped him in his tracks. Kim Suk-hoon told Yunho that even if he burst in, it wouldn't mean anything. After all, during the 7 years he'd been declared dead, everyone's lives had changed. His sudden appearance would only make everyone unhappy. More importantly, Yunho had Alzheimer's disease. He wouldn't be able to make Hyunsoo happy anymore in the future. Hearing these cruel words made Yunho extremely emotional, but ultimately he still chose to let Hyunsoo be happy. After composing himself, the only thing Yunho needed to do now was make Cheon Tae-hwa pay the price. Then Yunho voluntarily returned to Cheon Tae-hwa's house. Seeing him, Cheon Tae-hwa was so scared she didn't know what to do. She didn't know how much memory Yunho had recovered. After hearing Yunho say he remembered nothing, Cheon Tae-hwa finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just then, the doorbell suddenly rang. Yunho got up to answer the door. It turned out to be the lady at the door. Cheon Tae-hwa was so scared she immediately grabbed Yunho. She refused to let him open the door no matter what. But then the fire alarm suddenly went off. Scared, Cheon Tae-hwa pushed Yunho aside and ran away. She completely forgot she was playing the role of Yunho's adoptive mother. But she didn't expect the lady to be blocking the doorway. It turned out the lady had deliberately set off the fire alarm. She wanted to force Cheon Tae-hwa out. The lady came to warn Cheon Tae-hwa not to trouble Hyunsoo anymore. But before she could finish speaking, she actually saw Yunho run out from inside the house. At that moment, the lady couldn't believe her eyes. But when she called out her son's name, Yunho, not wanting to expose himself, acted like a stranger. He introduced himself as Lee Woo-jin. The lady was certain the man before her was her son. Afraid Woo-jin would recover his memory, Cheon Tae-hwa tried to chase the lady away, but she was pushed to the ground by the lady. Yunho quickly called Cheon Tae-hwa mom while helping her up. The lady didn't understand what was happening. Yunho was clearly her son. Why was he calling Cheon Tae-hwa mom? The lady frantically pounded on the door, wanting to see her son. Unexpectedly, she was driven out of the apartment on the spot by security called by Cheon Tae-hwa. The lady didn't understand why her son was living with Cheon Tae-hwa. Just as she was feeling more and more desperate, Yunho suddenly rushed out and hugged her. A single mom shocked the lady. After 7 years, mother and son finally met. The lady's longing was beyond words. Looking at her son's gaunt face, she grabbed his hand, ready to take him home for a good meal. But Yunho didn't plan to go home with his mother. His father's death was related to Cheon Tae-hwa. He wanted to stay by Cheon Tae-hwa's side to collect evidence and avenge his deceased father. The lady was very opposed to Yunho doing this, but Yunho said Hyunsoo had now remarried and was living happily. His appearance would only make everyone unhappy. The lady's heart was filled with mixed emotions. Then Yunho returned to Cheon Tae-hwa's house. To dispel Cheon Tae-hwa and Sungjin's suspicions, Yunho even deliberately brought back 2 medicated patches. He said he had just rushed out to buy medicine for Cheon Tae-hwa. Soon after, Yunho encountered a little boy on the street. The boy called him dad right away. Yunho thought the child had the wrong person and didn't take it to heart. However, his mother told Yunho that the child was his biological son. Yunho desperately went to the kindergarten, wanting to hug his son. But his son ran into Dojin's arms, calling him dad. Afraid of exposing his identity, Yunho turned and left. Hyunsoo looked at Yunho's retreating figure and felt it was very familiar. At that moment, Yunho regretted not stopping the wedding that day. Now he could only watch them leave. As the car drove away, Yunho still couldn't help but chase after it. That was his wife and child. Now they were all leaving him. The happy family of 3 in the car didn't notice Yunho running frantically. When he got home, Yunho beat up Kim Suk-hoon. If it weren't for Kim Suk-hoon, he would have stopped that wedding long ago. If he had known about his son's existence, how could he have watched his wife marry someone else? But Kim Suk-hoon believed that Yunho not only had Alzheimer's but also had to avenge his father. His current physical condition couldn't give Hyunsoo and her son happiness anymore. Kim Suk-hoon's words once again pierced Yunho's heart. Walking down the street in despair, he was spotted by Sayla. Sayla couldn't believe that the man she once secretly loved hadn't died. She quickly stopped Yunho, but Yunho impatiently shook off her hand. He said he was very annoyed when others mistook him for someone else. He solemnly introduced himself as Lee Woo-jin. Hearing this, Sayla froze on the spot. To verify whether Lee Woo-jin was Yunho, Sayla hired a private investigator to help investigate. But after the private investigator's inquiries, they couldn't find any information about Woo-jin. At that moment, Sayla felt more and more suspicious, so she immediately found the clothes whose sleeve Woo-jin had touched that day. She decided to take Woo-jin's blood stains and the lady's hair for a paternity test. Then Sayla's mother came to the lady's house under the pretext of looking for her. Learning the lady wasn't home, she took the opportunity to sneak into the lady's room and began collecting her hair. Then Sayla deliberately told Hyunsoo that Yunho was still alive. She hoped Hyunsoo would go see poor Yunho. After hearing this, Hyunsoo completely didn't believe her words. She said even if Yunho came back alive now, nothing would change. These words were overheard by the lady. At that moment, the lady finally understood that her son Yunho's choice not to return to the family was right. Although Hyunsoo said she no longer cared about Yunho, she still couldn't help but follow Sayla to see how similar Woo-jin looked to her her ex-husband. At that time, Yunho was thinking about how to get rid of Cheon Taewa's surveillance. Just then, Sayla called out his name from behind. At that moment, Hyunsu couldn't believe her eyes. She thought she had already let go of Yunho. But when she saw Woo Jin, who looked exactly like Yunho, her heart still ached. Hyunsu couldn't control her inner impulse and wanted to go forward, but Dojin grabbed her. This scene was equally hard for Yunho to bear, but he could only cruelly tell Hyunsu she had the wrong person. He told them not to bother him anymore. However, after he turned and left, tears poured out uncontrollably. To see her son every day, the lady proposed adopting Woo Jin as her godson, using the excuse that he looked like her son. Because this reason was flawless, Cheon Taewa could only agree. To keep the truth from being exposed, she could only have Sungjin speed up the process of seizing the company. Soon after, Sayla got the paternity report for the lady and Yunho, so she immediately prepared to deliver it to the chairman. But on the way there, she accidentally witnessed Yunho calling the lady mom. This further confirmed Sayla's suspicion, so she showed off the test report in her hand in front of the mother and son. She arrogantly said she would give this thing to the chairman. With that, she ran to the chairman's office with the paternity report. Yunho didn't want the truth to be revealed and desperately rushed forward to stop her, but Sayla still got away. On the way, Sayla also ran into Hyunsu. To make Hyunsu lose face in front of the chairman, Sayla forcibly dragged Hyunsu into the chairman's office. By coincidence, Cheon Taewa was also there. Sayla excitedly locked the door. Then she was about to open the test report in front of the chairman. Seeing this, Cheon Taewa was so scared she almost wet herself. She quickly rushed forward to try to snatch the report. Of course, Sayla was no pushover either. The conference room instantly became a battlefield. Cheon Taewa was pushed to the ground by Sayla. The chairman was scared seeing this. Sayla confidently opened the report, but when she opened it, she was dumbfounded. Unexpectedly, the paternity report showed that Woo Jin and the lady were not mother and son. This result satisfied everyone. After all, no one wanted the truth to be exposed. Because of her recklessness, Sayla could only kneel before the chairman begging for forgiveness. The reason the test result was wrong was because Sungjin had switched the test report long ago. Afterward, Sayla's father was very angry. He felt that since Dojin was already married, she shouldn't keep thinking about him. If she couldn't forget, she should go live in America. Just like that, father and daughter had a big fight over this. Angry, Sayla went to a bar to get drunk, but she accidentally called Sungjin to keep her company. After Sungjin sent the drunk Sayla to the hotel, he wanted to leave, but he heard Sayla crying. Seeing this, Sungjin felt compassion. He could only use a hug to give Sayla some comfort. The next day when Sayla woke up, she found herself wearing only pajamas. What made her even more shocked was that there was a man lying in the room. Seeing this, Sayla let out a scream. Sungjin, woken by the noise, told Sayla that nothing happened between them last night. Even so, Sayla still felt very embarrassed. She quickly packed her things to leave, but as soon as they walked out of the hotel, they unexpectedly ran into the Hyunsu couple. Sayla instinctively wanted to explain, but Sungjin took the opportunity to grab Sayla's hand. He said they had slept at the hotel last night. As soon as he finished speaking, Sayla's father happened to hear this. Her father was so angry he immediately wanted to beat up Sungjin. The scene became extremely chaotic. After calming down, Sayla desperately explained that it was all a misunderstanding. When Sayla's mother learned about this, she was secretly delighted. At this time, Sungjin took the opportunity to propose that he wanted to officially pursue Sayla. His purpose for doing this was to get Sayla's father's company shares. If they married, he would become the largest shareholder of the company at that time. But Sayla didn't want to have any relationship with Sungjin. No matter how her mother persuaded her, she just didn't want to date Sungjin. With no other option, Sayla's mother had to disguise herself as a cleaning lady to go to the company and spread gossip. She publicized everywhere that her daughter and Sungjin had slept in a hotel. She said both families were already planning the wedding. The rumors about Sayla and Sungjin caused a huge uproar in the company. The chairman was very angry when he learned about it. Sungjin took the opportunity to ask his father to agree to this marriage. He said his marriage to Sayla would only have benefits, no drawbacks. When Dojin and the lady learned about it, they were the first to stand up against it. They believed Sayla and Sungjin's marriage was just a transaction and definitely wouldn't last long. But at this time, Sungjin had made up his mind and no one could persuade him. Because Sayla didn't want to marry Sungjin, she refused to go out every day in anger. Her mother advised her not to reject this marriage. After all, marrying into the family would make her the eldest daughter-in-law of a wealthy household. More importantly, even Hyunsu would have to respectfully call her sister-in-law in the future. When Sayla heard she could upset Hyunsu, she began to change her mind. Because the rumors about Sungjin and Sayla kept getting bigger, the chairman ultimately had no choice but to agree to their marriage. When Sayla's mother learned about this, she was extremely happy. She wanted to celebrate the victory with Cheon Taewa, but she unexpectedly heard a recording about Sungjin's background. Only then did she realize Sungjin wasn't actually the chairman's biological son. This shocking news devastated Sayla's mother. After all, she had persuaded her daughter so hard to agree to this marriage. Now her daughter was going to marry a fake young master. How could their family handle this? Sayla's mother angrily cursed out Cheon Taewa, but Cheon Taewa warned her not to make a fuss. Otherwise, not only would the marriage be ruined, but she would also make Sayla's mother suffer the consequences. At the same time, she also reassured Sayla's mother. She said as long as no one else knew about this, Sayla would still be the eldest daughter-in-law of a wealthy family. Things had come to this point, so Sayla's mother had no choice but to compromise. Then Cheon Taewa began investigating who was working against her behind the scenes. She finally discovered it was Director Nam, the hitman she had sent to deal with Yunho. Because of gambling debts, Director Nam owed a huge amount of money. So he wanted to get some money from Cheon Taewa. He used Cheon Taewa's crime video to threaten her for 1 billion won. Where could Cheon Taewa get so much money? She could only give him half first. But the cunning Director Nam only gave half the evidence. That was the video of Sungjin's background. The other criminal evidence was still in Director Nam's hands. At the same time, Yunho also discovered that Director Nam was the man who had bumped into him when they boarded the boat. This meant the boat accidentally accident they encountered was also related to Director Nam. Cheon Taewa's subordinates found Director Nam first. Realizing the danger, Director Nam ran away, but he was saved by Kim Suk-hoon. Kim Suk-hoon revealed his identity. He was the son of Cheon Taewa's boyfriend. Kim Suk-hoon only wanted to get the evidence, but for Director Nam, of course he would give it to whoever paid more. Kim Suk-hoon took out Yunho's photo. Director Nam recognized at a glance that this was the victim of the boat accident he had engineered. His expression instantly became tense. Kim Suk-hoon threatened that if he didn't cooperate, he would expose the boat accident. To confirm with his own eyes that Yunho was still alive, Director Nam found Yunho. Yunho also pretended not to know him. Hearing he was Cheon Taewa's friend, he brought him home. As soon as Cheon Taewa saw Director Nam, she broke out in a cold sweat. Director Nam took the opportunity to remind Cheon Taewa to prepare the money quickly. Seeing Cheon Taewa so nervous, Yunho reminded her that this Director Nam was a bit strange. After hearing this, Cheon Taewa was very surprised. She had never mentioned Director Nam's name. Nervously, she immediately rushed into Yunho's room to question him, but Yunho said Director Nam had introduced himself. Cheon Taewa suddenly felt awkward. After making an excuse to send Yunho away, she began looking through Yunho's call records, but she didn't know the password. Then Yunho suddenly appeared behind her. Cheon Taewa was nearly scared to death. She hurriedly explained she couldn't find her phone and wanted to call it to try. Yunho immediately dialed her number, but the phone ringtone came from Cheon Taewa's pocket. Yunho knew Cheon Taewa had begun to suspect him, but he still played dumb with her. On the other side, since the chairman agreed to Sungjin and Sayla's marriage, Sungjin would occasionally go to Sayla's house to please her parents. Unexpectedly, while drinking with his future father-in-law that day, he accidentally learned that Sayla's father had long ago cashed out and squandered all his company shares. Their family had no company shares at all now. When Cheon Taewa learned about this, she immediately found Sayla's mother and flew into a rage. After all, Sungjin wanted to marry Sayla because of her father's shares. Now they discovered their family had no value at all. After hearing this, Sayla's mother was also full of anger. She accused Sungjin of being just a fake young master. She threatened that if Cheon Taewa continued to disrespect her, she would go tell the chairman that Sungjin wasn't his biological son. But she never expected the chairman was standing right behind them. Learning the truth, the chairman fainted on the spot. After being sent to the hospital and resuscitated, there was no life-threatening danger. He just remained unconscious for a while. Because the chairman fainted and was hospitalized, Sungjin took the opportunity to become the company's acting director. However, on his first day in office, news that he was a fake son spread throughout the company. This made Sungjin very anxious. Soon the chairman regained consciousness. Afraid the chairman would learn about his background, Sungjin hurriedly rushed to the hospital. But as soon as he entered the room, he saw his father whispering something in his brother's ear. At that moment, Sungjin felt extremely guilty. Actually, Dojin hadn't heard the truth about the fainting from his father. The chairman only told Dojin not to blame his brother Sungjin. But the chairman's words immediately made Dojin realize the fainting must be related to his brother. Soon after, when Dojin was helping Hyunsu organize Yunho's belongings, he accidentally saw that Yunho had once entered the group's design competition 7 years ago. Seeing the familiar villa, he realized the design Sungjin had plagiarized was actually Yunho's. So he suspected the reason his father fainted was because of Sungjin's plagiarism. Dojin also knew about this back then but chose to help his brother cover it up. At this moment, Dojin regretted it deeply. He decided to reveal everything. Sungjin had worked so hard to get to where he was today. Unwilling to let everything he had obtained be ruined, he even knelt down to apologize to Dojin and tried to stop him. But Dojin wasn't the same person he was 7 years ago. Dojin explained everything to Yunho's family. This surprised everyone. Hyunsu also began to resent him. This made Dojin feel even more guilty. Dojin originally planned to announce his brother's plagiarism early in the morning, but Sungjin beat him to it. Sungjin took the initiative to hold a press conference. Dojin thought he was admitting his mistakes, but Sungjin was making excuses for himself in every word. He pushed all the blame onto the person in charge back then. This appearance made Yunho very angry, so the next second, news about Sungjin's background appeared on the screen. To prove the news was reliable, they even included a recording. At that moment, everyone was stunned. Cheon Taewa was so scared she didn't care about her image and hurriedly knocked over the camera. This guilty behavior was also broadcast live throughout the venue. However, when people came to question her, Cheon Taewa insisted the recording was fake. She said this was the lady slandering her. Her reasonable arguments successfully shifted the focus. In this way, the heat of the plagiarism dropped sharply. Instead, the secret of Sungjin's background topped the trending searches. Facing the chairman, Cheon Taewa firmly insisted that Sungjin was the chairman's biological son. She vowed to handle this matter properly. The chairman just looked at Sungjin with heartache. After all, he had raised this son for 30 years. He no longer cared about blood relations. To get rid of Director Nam, Sungjin decided to make a deal with him. This was also Yunho's good opportunity to catch them all in one net. After Sungjin got the evidence USB drive, he didn't even look at it before throwing it into the river. Director Nam immediately realized Sungjin hadn't come today to eliminate evidence. He came to eliminate him. Yunho couldn't sit and wait any longer. He hurriedly rushed over to stop them. He pretended to run into them by chance and greeted Sungjin. Director Nam took the opportunity to escape. When Sungjin tried to chase after him, Yunho stopped him. His subordinates broke free from Yunho to chase after him. Sungjin angrily questioned why Yunho was there. At that time, Kim Suk-hoon's voice came from behind. They lied that they came here to talk business. When Yunho asked Sungjin in return, Sungjin didn't know how to explain. Director Nam was also enraged by Sungjin and his group's behavior. He decided to cooperate with Yunho and the others to take down Cheon Taewa. On the other side, when Hyunsu was crossing the street, she was almost hit by a car. Fortunately, Yunho pulled her away in time, preventing an accident. This moment made Hyunsu feel somewhat dazed. She smelled an incredibly familiar body odor. That was a scent unique only to her ex-husband. She stared at the face before her that was both strange and familiar, standing there frozen. Yunho's heart was also very unsettled after urgently calling out Hyunsu Hyunsu's name. To avoid exposing his identity, Yunho quickly made an excuse and hurried away. This accident made Hyunsu begin to suspect that Woo Jin was her husband Yunho, so she went to the police station to verify Woo Jin's identity. However, she discovered that the real Woo Jin didn't look like Yunho at all. This was enough to prove that Yunho was impersonating Woo Jin's identity. When Hyunsu confronted the lady with the photo, the lady didn't know how to explain this matter. Just as the lady was in a difficult position, Yunho also appeared at the restaurant. It turned out Hyunsu, to figure out Yunho's identity, had deliberately called both mother and son over. The moment their eyes met again, Hyunsu could no longer suppress her longing for Yunho in her heart. Without hesitation, she hugged Yunho. Hyunsu firmly believed the Yunho before her was her husband who had died 7 years ago. Although Yunho was extremely moved, he cruelly pushed away Hyunsu's embrace. He said Hyunsu had the wrong person and turned to leave. Hyunsu followed closely behind, asking Yunho why he wouldn't admit his identity. Why, when he had clearly come back, didn't he come find her? At that moment, Yunho stopped pretending. He questioned Hyunsu, who would be happy if he came back. He had already been declared dead 7 years ago. Now everyone was living happily. Who still remembered him? Even if he came back alive now, their former marriage had already ended, so Yunho begged Hyunsu to treat him as a dead person from now on. Forgetting him was the best choice. With that, he left without looking back. Afterward, Hyunsu also began to blame herself. Shouldn't she have married Dojin back then? Just as Hyunsu was wavering between Yunho and Dojin, she accidentally learned that Cheon Tae-hwa was the mastermind behind the boat accident that killed her former father-in-law. Before Hyunsu could recover, Officer Hwang also discovered that Cheon Tae-hwa was a hit-and-run driver in a car accident. The man who was killed was Hyunsu's father. Hyunsu's mother was a witness to that accident. After learning this, Hyunsu was devastated. She never expected she had married her enemy's son. What made it even harder for her to accept was that Dojin had known about the car accident not long ago, but Dojin chose to hide it from her. Soon, Hyunsu's family members all learned about these things. Dojin knew he couldn't make up for the crimes his mother had committed. He could only kneel down and apologize on his mother's behalf. But Hyunsu's family could no longer accept such a person as their son-in-law. Grandmother was so emotional she drove Dojin away. She was determined to have Hyunsu divorce Dojin. Because of this, Hyunsu began to struggle. After all, she truly loved Dojin, and her hatred was also real. At the same time, Yunho and Kim Suk-hoon also began their revenge plan. They leaked the news of Cheon Tae-hwa's hit and run to the media. They also exposed the fact that Sungjin wasn't the chairman's biological son. All the major media instantly exploded. Because of this, Cheon Tae-hwa was surrounded by reporters scrambling for interviews. Because the chairman had been in poor health, the group prepared to have the lady serve as acting chairman. To help Sungjin seize the chairman position at the group, Cheon Tae-hwa deliberately told the lady that Yunho had Alzheimer's disease. After learning this, the lady had difficulty accepting it and fainted on the spot. Yunho stopped pretending and directly called out, "Mom." At that moment, Dojin learned that Woo Jin was actually Yunho. Cheon Tae-hwa also finally realized Yunho had recovered his memory. Learning her ex-husband had a terminal illness, Hyunsu was heartbroken. She also finally understood why Yunho refused to acknowledge her. News of Cheon Tae-hwa going to the company in style to attend the shareholders meeting soon appeared on TV. Seeing her enemy showing off, grandmother was so angry she jumped up and down. She directly rushed to the shareholders meeting and beat up Cheon Tae-hwa. Because of grandmother's disturbance, the shareholders meeting had to be suspended. Through Hyunsu's grandmother, the chairman finally learned what bad things Cheon Tae-hwa had done. He never expected this woman to be so vicious. After the meeting resumed, the lady successfully became acting chairman. Sungjin was dismissed from his position by the board members because of the plagiarism incident. Everything Cheon Tae-hwa had worked so hard for was destroyed in an instant. She wanted to vent her anger on the lady, but the police suddenly arrived. They directly arrested Cheon Tae-hwa on murder charges. Yunho also admitted his identity in front of everyone. He made all of Cheon Tae-hwa's crimes over the years public. Just like that, Cheon Tae-hwa was directly arrested by police at the shareholders meeting. After arriving at the detention center, Cheon Tae-hwa, used to being arrogant, remained arrogant. She still bossed around her cellmates. The cellmates immediately beat her up to teach her a lesson. Cheon Tae-hwa was beaten so badly she was hospitalized. Seeing everything had finally ended, Yunho finally returned to his original position. When Hyunsu's family saw Yunho again, their hearts were filled with mixed emotions. Grandmother felt heartbroken seeing Yunho suffering. She regretted even more letting Hyunsu marry Dojin, which prevented Yunho from coming home for so long. Standing outside the door, Dojin heard their words and felt very uncomfortable. To this family, he was a sinner. Looking back at past happy moments now seemed so ironic. Hyunsu finally proposed divorce. Dojin wanted to try to keep her but didn't know in what capacity. At that time, Cheon Tae-hwa had escaped from the prison hospital. Then Dojin received a call from Cheon Tae-hwa. Desperate, Cheon Tae-hwa begged her son for help. Hyunsu asked who had called. Now Dojin faced a difficult choice. On one side was his wife, on the other his mother. Ultimately he still chose to cover for his mother. Dojin hurried to meet his mother, but she remained stubborn, asking Dojin to help her flee to America. Just as Dojin was about to persuade his mother to turn herself in, the police suddenly arrived. Cheon Tae-hwa thought Dojin had called the police and betrayed her, so without hesitation, she pushed her son down and chose to escape. When Yunho wanted to chase after Cheon Tae-hwa, Dojin held Yunho tightly. After escaping, Cheon Tae-hwa could only end up fighting with street beggars for a place to sleep. When hungry, she could only stare at the street-side steamed bun shop and swallow her saliva. Unable to bear it anymore, she went to a pawn shop. She tore off the diamond from her clothes to exchange for money. The diamond worth 1,000,000 won could only be exchanged for 300,000 won at the pawn shop owner's place. Cheon Tae-hwa could only agree. Right after she left, the owner dialed the reward hotline. The informant reward was 30 million won. At that moment, Cheon Tae-hwa was excitedly taking the money she just got to buy a few steamed buns. But the next second, it was all snatched away by a motorcycle gang. Just as Cheon Tae-hwa was about to chase after them, police sirens suddenly sounded. Scared, Cheon Tae-hwa quickly hid in an alley. Seeing her disheveled self in the mirror, Cheon Tae-hwa cried miserably. At this moment, Cheon Tae-hwa didn't feel she had done anything wrong at all. Instead, she felt all this was thanks to Yunho. Unwilling to give up, she found Sayla to help her prepare escape money. She promised to give all her shares in the group to Sayla. Hearing such benefits, Sayla immediately agreed. Cheon Tae-hwa, focused only on escaping, didn't yet know that her 3 children had been tortured by her to the point of wishing they were dead. Her eldest son Sungjin was kicked out of the house by the chairman for covering for her. Her second son Dojin now faced divorce. Even her youngest daughter Yojin had just learned that her boyfriend Kim Suk-hoon had only approached her for revenge. Unable to accept this cruel truth, Yojin desperately walked into the middle of the road. Just as she was about to be hit, Kim Suk-hoon rushed forward recklessly and pushed Yojin away, but he himself fell in a pool of blood. At that time, Cheon Tae-hwa was still waiting for Sayla to bring money. Little did she know the police had already targeted her. Soon Officer Huang found where Cheon Tae-hwa was staying, but when he opened the door, he discovered only Sayla was in the room. Cheon Tae-hwa had already escaped in advance. With Sungjin's help, Cheon Tae-hwa successfully evaded police pursuit. Sungjin blamed his mother for making their lives a mess. Learning about her children's situations, Cheon Tae-hwa was also heartbroken. To comfort her daughter Yojin, Cheon Tae-hwa took the initiative to arrange a meeting with her to express her guilt. But Cheon Tae-hwa didn't expect her daughter had leaked the information to the police in advance. By the time Cheon Tae-hwa realized it, it was too late. Cheon Tae-hwa was ultimately handed over to the police by her own daughter. Dojin's whole family came to Hyunsu's house to apologize. They hoped to save this marriage, but for Hyunsu, seeing Dojin only reminded her of her deceased father. Even though it pained her, Hyunsu insisted on divorce. Hyunsu's grandmother not only wanted her to divorce but also wanted Yunho to come back and live with this family. Facing her 2 husbands, Hyunsu didn't know what to do. What shocked everyone even more was that Yunho also wanted to come back to live in this house. It turned out he had learned he didn't actually have Alzheimer's disease. It was all a conspiracy plotted by Kim Suk-hoon to get him to join in revenge. Since he wasn't sick, he wanted to reclaim the position that originally belonged to him. Soon, Yunho brought his luggage to Hyunsu's house. Grandmother was very happy to welcome her former son-in-law back. Only Hyunsu stood to the side with very complicated feelings. She angrily asked Yunho why he had to move in. At least she hadn't divorced Dojin yet. Seeing his wife's displeased expression, Yunho felt indescribable pain. He only knew he had slept and lost everything. So now he didn't want to watch his wife and son belong to someone else anymore. If Hyunsu still loved Dojin, he didn't care. He was willing to spend time waiting. After so many days of thinking, Hyunsu finally made a difficult choice. She took off the wedding ring Dojin had given her and returned it to him. Initially, Hyunsu planned to end relationships with both husbands, but to give her son a complete family, she had no choice but to choose to live with Yunho. At least the child would have his biological father by his side. Hearing these words, tears involuntarily fell from Dojin's eyes. He pitifully begged Hyunsu not to abandon him, but Dojin ultimately couldn't change anything. After spending some time together, Yunho thought his son had completely accepted him as his dad. But when he saw the picture book the child drew, he realized how important Dojin was in Isong's heart. So before Dojin was about to leave the country, Yunho brought the child over to let them meet one last time. Isong didn't know this was the last time he would see his stepfather. When he learned Dojin was leaving, he seemed very disappointed. Being able to see the child one last time fulfilled Dojin's wish. He could finally leave Korea with peace of mind. Completely unaware, Hyunsu was still packing Dojin's belongings. She planned to have him take back all the items he had left behind. But at the company, she unexpectedly saw Dojin's resignation letter. After some hesitation, the lady still told Hyunsu that her stepson was leaving. Hyunsu, who had originally let go of this relationship, completely panicked at this moment. At that time, Dojin had already arrived at the airport, but just as Dojin was about to board the plane, he received a call that his mother had fainted. It turned out Cheon Tae-hwa had been bullied by thugs in prison, causing her to be knocked unconscious. This forced Dojin, who was just about to board the plane, to give up going abroad. After the doctor's rescue efforts, Cheon Tae-hwa ultimately saved her life, but unfortunately, she had become a vegetative patient. The trial would have to be postponed again. Yunho came to the hospital to check on the situation. He was very surprised to see Dojin. Dojin hoped he wouldn't tell Hyunsu he had come back. Thinking Dojin had already left, Hyunsu was prepared to forget the past. Yunho wanted to tell Hyunsu about Dojin's news, but Hyunsu stopped him. She asked for the couple bracelet she and Yunho once had. She decided to return to Yunho's side again. Everyone's lives seemed to return to calm, except for the comatose Cheon Tae-hwa. The doctor couldn't understand it at all. The examination showed no problems, but Cheon Tae-hwa just wouldn't wake up. Little did they know this was all Sungjin's plan. He had already had other doctors inject sedatives for his mother to keep her in a sleeping state. As long as they fooled the police, they could successfully apply to go abroad for treatment. Then he and his mother could escape abroad and live carefree lives. That day, Hyunsu's mother came to the hospital and suddenly saw Dojin. She hurriedly tried to catch up and say hello, but she accidentally ended up in Cheon Tae-hwa's hospital room. At that time, Cheon Tae-hwa had woken up, but her mental state seemed abnormal. She had forgotten Hyunsu's mother. She frantically grabbed her, begging her to take her away. Scared, Hyunsu's mother ran away. Fortunately, she ran into Dojin. Learning his mother had woken up, Dojin was shocked, but when they arrived at the hospital room, Cheon Tae-hwa had fallen asleep again. Sungjin insisted that he and the doctor had been there the whole time. They hadn't seen their mother wake up. However, Dojin sensed something was wrong. His mother's soles were dirty. How could someone bedridden have marks on the bottom of their feet? Dojin realized his mother was faking illness. He wanted to wake her up. Strangely, his mother had no reaction at all. Sungjin insisted Dojin was being too sensitive. Meanwhile, the lady had already obtained evidence of Sungjin misappropriating public funds. To stop the lady from reporting him, Sayla lied in desperation, saying she was pregnant. The lady quickly took Sayla to the hospital for examination. Facing the doctor, Sayla was anxious, thinking about how to cover up her lie. But to her complete surprise, she was actually pregnant. For a moment, Sayla didn't know whether to feel fortunate or worried. She had already asked Sungjin for a divorce. The lady realized she couldn't keep watching Sungjin make mistakes. After all, he was going to be a father. The lady chose to give him time to sort everything out. She let him turn himself involuntarily. Little did she know Sungjin would waste this last opportunity too. Sungjin secretly came to the lady's office and copied the group's latest technology. He planned to take this new technology abroad to sell for money. After preparing everything, he planned to escape abroad with his mother. But Sayla's pregnancy left him torn. Under Cheon Taewa's instigation, Sungjin decided to abandon his wife and child. Soon it was the day Cheon Taewa applied to go abroad for treatment. Sungjin followed his mother onto the ambulance with great anticipation. This time, mother and son could finally escape abroad to live carefree lives. Little did they know their plan had already been discovered by the police. The vehicle they got into was an ambulance the police had switched out. Cheon Taewa began fantasizing about a beautiful future life. But Sungjin looked gloomy. He began worrying about Sayla and the child. At that time, Sayla called, but Cheon Taewa hung up directly. Sungjin could only choose to give up the past. However, Sungjin suddenly realized they weren't on the way to the airport. When the car door opened, mother and son completely broke down. What appeared before them was actually Yunho's face. The two evildoers were finally caught. When Sayla learned that Sungjin had actually abandoned her to escape alone, she couldn't believe it at all. She questioned how Sungjin could be so heartless. But Sungjin secretly slipped the USB drive into Sayla's hand. Sayla didn't understand what this was. When she opened it, she realized it was the group's confidential documents. She instantly understood Sungjin wanted her to sell the technology for money. Sungjin told Sayla the transaction location. He hoped Sayla could help him one more time. After repeated consideration, Sayla decided to take a risk. However, when Sungjin was anxiously waiting for Sayla to complete the transaction, the lady told him the technology had already been patented. No buyer would dare to buy it. Only then did Sungjin realize he had fallen into a trap, and he had harmed Sayla this time. When Sayla arrived at the buyer's room, the buyer discovered there was a problem with the documents. Thinking he was being played, he angrily was about to teach Sayla a lesson. The next second, police burst through the door. It turned out that for the sake of the baby in her belly, Sayla ultimately decided to redeem herself through meritorious service. When Sungjin met his mother again in prison, both mother and son had already become prisoners. Cheon Taewa felt extremely guilty toward her son. Her son also refused to acknowledge his mother anymore. He couldn't forgive his mother for pushing him into the abyss. But what he couldn't forgive even more was that he had watched his mother commit crimes with his own eyes. Both of them finally received the punishment they deserved. Cheon Taewa thought she had lost her son forever, but she didn't know Sungjin had been writing letters to Yunho all along. He hoped Yunho could forgive his mother. When Cheon Taewa saw the letter her son wrote, she finally came to her senses. Ultimately, Yunho received an apology from Cheon Taewa. Dojin lived in pain outside because of the crimes his mother committed. To reduce his guilt toward Hyunsu, he transferred all his property to Hyunsu's son. This was to atone for his mother's sins. Yunho looked at the couple bracelet he shared with Hyunsu and saw it had a crack. He knew this was like their relationship, it also had cracks. It seemed that keeping Hyunsu tied to his side wouldn't make either of them happy. So he told Hyunsu about Dojin's upcoming departure abroad. He hoped Hyunsu could make her own choice. Hyunsu's mind suddenly went blank. Ultimately, she still couldn't control her heart and chased after him. Hyunsu collapsed as she rushed to the airport. She kept searching for Dojin's figure. She wasn't willing to not make a final goodbye. But the moment she saw Dojin, Hyunsu began to hesitate. She didn't know what meaning there was in chasing after him. Since they were destined to have no future together, it would be better to let go. Just as she turned to leave, Dojin's voice suddenly came from behind. Looking at the person they loved deeply, neither knew what to say. Ultimately, they only made their final goodbye. Even at the end, neither chose to return to the past. Only after boarding the plane did Dojin take out the letter Cheon Taewa had written to him. In the letter, his mother sincerely apologized to Dojin. She begged for Dojin's forgiveness. Dojin had waited too long for his mother to admit her mistakes. He couldn't help but shed painful tears. At the same time, Cheon Taewa also looked desperately at the plane in the sky. She shed tears of despair with great heartache. As her palm slid down, Cheon Taewa's life also came to an end. A year passed in a flash. Sayla gave birth to triplets. With her parents' help, she was raising her 3 children. Ultimately, she still didn't choose to divorce. Looking at photos of the children, Sungjin was filled with happiness. He only hoped to be released from prison soon to enjoy family happiness. Yunho returned to his identity as a designer, doing work he loved. He also had more time to spend with his son. Hyunsu's career was also getting better and better. Everyone's lives had returned to calm. When Hyunsu returned home, she saw a postcard that had fallen on the ground. It was one she, her son, and Dojin had sent together to 1 year in the future. Now things had changed. Only then did Hyunsu realize their shared wish back then was both hoping the other would be happy. So ultimately, Hyunsu decided to let go of everything from the past and accept a new life. She decided to be with Yunho again, making up for the 7 years they had lost. The lady looked at the happy and harmonious scene before her and felt very comforted. Although the journey had been extremely difficult, ultimately it allowed her to see the moon through the clouds. This concludes the Korean drama, You Are My Gift. Thank you all for watching. I'm Dino K Drama. See you in the next Korean drama.